Welcome to another episode of the Plutus Awards podcast. Our community is filled with hundreds of stories from creators and entrepreneurs just like you. And through this podcast, we plan to share these stories from bloggers to podcasters, writers, speakers, and more.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Plutus Awards podcast. Today, our guest is Shannon McLay from the Financial Gym. Hi, Shannon.
Hey, Miranda.
So we're going to be diving into some really kind of sticky issues right now. We are recording this in the midst of a global pandemic, and we're going to talk about, raising funds, building a brick and mortar business, and then what happens when life throws you a global pandemic curveball. So it's going to be a wild ride.
You hit a grand slam home run is what you do, Miranda.
Yes, let's hope so. Let's go ahead and back up first of all. So the Financial Gym, it's got locations, right? It's a brick and mortar location, which is a little bit unusual. So what made you decide that brick and mortar was the way to go for this venture?
So yeah, we're online and offline, but I had this idea 7 years ago when I was working as a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch, and I just saw a need for a democratized way of getting financial planning, because to work with me at Merrill Lynch, you had to have $250,000 in assets. And I was learning all these financial planning skills that really the world needed, not just people with money. So, and at the same time that I had this idea, I was on this weight loss journey. And I remember thinking that, if I want to get physically healthy, I have so many places to go. But if people want to get financially healthy, where would they go? And the light bulb aha was like, it's like H&R Block, but fun and cool. And you go to get financially healthy at a financial gym. And instead of financial advisors, they're financial trainers, and they wear jeans and t-shirts, and people pay a monthly membership fee. And I really saw it very fully formed 7 years ago. And I just always saw it as a place because there is a huge model for H&R Block. And a lot of people use TurboTax and other online and Tax Act and online software, but people still use H&R Block, and it's still a massive company. And that was my thesis 7 years ago, was that, yeah, you could use an app or a bot, but what about the people who want to speak to a human being and have a human being help them with their finances? And I saw that need. And just like people go to regular gyms, I thought people would go to a financial gym. And that was 7 years ago. And it's really funny because now, 7 years later, I'm glad I didn't know, or, ignorance is bliss, what I know now. Because what's really funny, the things I learned the hard way are that in early stage financial service startups, actually a brick and mortar concept for any startup is usually poo-pooed by investors. They hate it.
Right, because everything's online, everything's an app. That's the hotness.
Yes, because that's where the money goes. There's not a lot of early stage money for a brick and mortar concept, which I could go on and on about the changes that need to happen in the venture capital space, but that's we could get into some of that. But I didn't realize that there wasn't that much money for it. I just thought this is a good idea and I'm going to do it. And I've obviously found some money. I've raised almost $7.5 million to date, but it's been hard money to find. If I was just an app, I would have found more.
Now, tell me then about what is that process like as you're going to raise money? We talk about bootstrapping, and obviously there's some measure of that in what you've been doing. You've definitely done some bootstrapping, but at the same time, how do you go ahead and raise that money? Where did you find that more than $7 million that you've raised so far?
Yeah. So I tell people I have given birth vaginally and I've raised venture capital money, and I'd rather give birth vaginally all day long than raise venture capital money. It's that much fun.
I've given birth vaginally, but I haven't tried raising venture capital yet. But
you want to have another baby, Miranda. Let me tell you what, it feels so much better. And we both know how that feels. So it's a really challenging process. So for me, I've done all of it. I bootstrapped it the first few years to prove what does financial training look like? What kind of results can we get? What would people pay? Then I raised some angel investor money, and angel investors are, friends and family or people, for me, it was my former boss at Merrill Lynch who got let go and had a severance payout and asked me how I should invest it. I told him he should invest in a small financial services company that was going to run out of money. And that was my first $300,000 and the easiest because I'd known him for 10 years. So And bootstrapping, I went through my entire 401k, which the joke is now when you're in the gym, you're sitting in my 401k because that was like a little over 250,000 that of course I lost through penalties and taxes, but that's gone or that's invested in the gym. And then after that, it was okay, I have to expand the network, to find more money because having a physical space and building it out and having people. Actually, people and places are two things that venture capital investors hate because they're very expensive. So, and that was my business model. So, it's all about networking, really. And I've talked about this a lot about the value of networking. And somebody described it years ago to me as like, it's like building a garden that you tend the soil, you plant the seed, you have patience for it to grow. So you're never networking with the intent right away of using that garden. You're just networking to network. And then at some point, it's going to bear fruit. And then you can go to that. And that's what's happened over the years is just building that network. And when we were in our initial gym location, like our first startup space, I got connected to a woman who was working for me in marketing. She was connected to other people who are connected into the venture capital space. And they're very much like lemmings where they kind of all follow each other. And the hardest part is to just break in and get somebody to acknowledge you because very few of them will respond to like a random pitch deck that they've never seen before. It really is a introduction to who knows who. So I was fortunate enough through the network to get connected to who ended up being our lead investor in our first VC round. And that was Brooklyn Bridge Ventures. And the funny story about this is that, I have this person's like offers to connect me to Charlie, who is the fund manager of this fund. And she's like, I don't know if he'll meet with you, but try to set it up. So he agrees to meet with me. And the night before I meet with him, I was talking to another founder. And in New York, there's different venture capital pockets. And the biggest is obviously in Silicon Valley, in San Francisco. But there is a New York pocket as well. So there's funds that are New York based. And so the communities are really not that big. It's just hard to break in. So I was talking to another founder, a New York founder, the night before I have this meeting with Charlie. She's like, Shannon, do not take money from him. He's an a-hole. And I was like, oh,
no.
okay.
Oh, no.
And
Oh, no.
if you Google his name, there is some like sexual harassment stuff out there that people accused him of. And I told her, I was like, yeah, I've read that stuff about him. But honestly, I've been in financial services for 13 years now. Like, I have a very high threshold for sexual harassment. I worked on a trading floor at 22 when I was like a super hot body that I didn't think was hot back then. Right now, I would kill for that. And then blonde hair, boobs. I mean, I totally have a high threshold for sexual harassment. So I was kind of like, part of me was curious what he had. I was like, I'm kind of interested to see because are people just really sensitive? I said, I'm going to take the meeting. Let's just see what happens. And so what's funny is I told the team, I was like, okay, well, A, I want to see, what happens. I have a high threshold. B, this is my company. This is my baby. And if I'm going to get harassed for anything, I'll get harassed for this versus like getting harassed working at Merrill Lynch, And then 3, I told my team, I was like, but what if he doesn't hit on me? Then like, I don't know if I'm more offended like that I don't get hit on or if I get hit on at that point. So I went specifically with this like t-shirt. We had at the time a shirt that was green and it showed off my boobs and it was 50 Shades of Green is what the shirt said. And I was like, I'm going to wear this to the meeting. Let's just see what happens. And as soon as I walked in, Charlie was a gentleman, such a nice guy. And he was like, so it's like H&R Block, but LearnVest and Genius Bar for Money. Like he totally got our business like right away. And I'd met with a number of other people who didn't get it. And it felt really good that he got it. And he was like, so this is a brick and mortar play. And I was like, yeah. And I'd had enough conversations where I was trying to hide that fact. And he's like, why are you hiding it in your deck? And I said, because, most people don't like that concept. And he's like, yeah, but then you're not the right fit for those people. But there are people who love it. He's like, it's just like when you're dating somebody wants kids and somebody doesn't want kids. Like, if you've got a kid and somebody doesn't want kids, you're in the wrong fit, but there are people who want kids. And I was like, okay. He's like, so I think you need to redo your deck. And I think you need to think bigger. Like, I think this is a bigger thing and you're not giving it enough credit. So he had me like redo the deck, redo a few things. And he invested $350,000 and he led was called our seed round. And so from that point on, then he made a lot of introductions to his network to try to finish out the round and get it funded. And we ultimately in that round, we raised 1.5 million. And the majority of that came from connections that Charlie made. And then once you get in, then you're kind of in. And then the next rounds, it was like other investors leading to other investors is just kind of how it happens. But it's to get to the 7.3 million, I've had over 500 meetings and we have 20 investors.
Wow. Yeah, so it's a lot of pounding the pavement. Yeah. So, like, what are you giving away? Like, we hear about, like, be careful about this venture capital. Like, they'll take your company, they'll own a part of your company. Yeah. How does that work? What are you giving away when you seek venture capital?
You're giving away ownership of your business. So, while it's just you own 100% of it and you have all the decisions and things like that. Every time you raise money, you're selling away a part of the business. And people are weary of that, and they should be, because as it grows, you just have less of the upside of it. But for me, I was encouraged to raise the money because I was like, you know what? We're all aligned. Like, I want to grow 10x. They want me to grow 10x. We're on the same page as far as that. What happens is every time you raise, there's a value put on your company and you sell a part of it. And so you just want to make sure that you're getting a value and you're selling, especially in the early stages, you're not selling too much of it because, by the end of the raise, you start out 100%, you could end up at 10%, and that's not obvious. And so 90% of your business belongs to other people. So you want to look for, when your first investors are people who do invest in early stages, especially early on, because they get how a company is going to grow and they get how you should protect yourself along the way. And at the end of the day, most investors do want the founder to have skin in the game and that was something that Charlie showed me early on. He was like, I want you to own more of this because there is a portion of my business that's owned through an LLC with my ex-husband. The way that was structured, he's like, well, how much of the LLC do you own? Because they wanted to see that I owned, more. Because like, if I'm the founder and I'm the driving force of the business and I all of a sudden have 10% of the company, I could just walk away. And there goes all the value of the company. So there are investors who will acknowledge that and protect you as the founder along the way. And you just want to make sure every deal that you do is, that you're protected. And I have an amazing attorney, which is funny for me to say because I think most lawyers are worthless. But I tell clients to not invest in lawyers. And this was through the network, actually, that founder in New York, she connected me to this attorney. He has been with me since we've been on like 3 years now of raising. And he's kind of like my general counsel, but also, advises me on the raises. And he is just, I love Darren to pieces. I've referred them to so many people because, I trust him, and he's, so he's representing me, and he'll tell me, he's like, Shannon, you don't want to give away this much of the company at this point. Here's what you need to protect you, and here's how it should look for you and the other investors. And it's really great to have feedback. So when you're raising, you want to make sure you have like a network of advisors who've been there, because I have no idea what I'm doing. Like,
right.
I have no idea.
See, that's awesome. That's so important that you surround yourself with people that are complementary to your strengths and weaknesses, and people that you can trust to kind of move you forward. Now, so let's talk a little bit about, you've grown this brick and mortar business, you've turned this passion into a business model. It kind of keeps people and their needs at the heart of it. And I know that before all of this hit, like, you were planning on opening other locations outside of New York City. How do you build that? How do you inspire people to want to be a part of it?
Well, I tell people all the time, I'm really thankful that I started a business that is truly mission driven with improving the financial health of Americans and, at some point the world, because I can't even imagine a company where we were just like making widgets, because I think it's really hard to inspire people with that. For me, I have been building this now for 7 years, and I've been financially training people now for over 7 years. And it is the greatest job ever. It really is, like, helping people achieve their dreams and overcome fears and anxiety they have around the most taboo subject of all, money, is just, it's life-changing to work for the gym. And it's funny because I always sold it like that. before I started hiring people, I'd been doing it on my own for like 3 years. So when I would hire new trainers, I was like, this is the greatest job ever. And here's why. You're helping people live their best lives. You're doing all these things like, helping them buy the homes, helping them afford the children, all the things. So that was how I sold it. And I believe it, and I still believe it. But what's funny is like once you raise the venture capital money, there is a pace that the investors expect you to maintain, and it's a very fast pace. But I didn't know that because I'd never run a startup before. So I really didn't know what I was selling people into. And then what's funny, like probably like a year in, and it was a particularly challenging time where the team was just working really hard as we were raising money again and trying to hire new people. And I had this interview with this one woman on my team, but she wasn't on the team yet. And it was just like a day. And I said, so, why do you want to work for the gym? She's like, I want to change the world, something lovely like that. And I was like, okay, that's great. And you will. But here's what the reality. The reality is it's 90-hour work weeks. It is a grind. It is a very fast pace. I went on and on and on. And then I said, but it's the greatest job ever. It really is. And here's why. And my COO was with me and she was just like, oh my God, Shannon, I can't believe how honest you were in that. But I was like, I'm not going to bait and switch anyone into this. It's a lot. It's hard work. And so I said that to this trainer and I said, so do you still want the job? And she was like, yeah, I do. And she's been with me a year and a half now. And she's, God love her, is one of our hardest workers. And I was like, I told you day one, it was going to be hard, but it is hard work working for a startup. I don't care what the startup is, it's hard work, but we really do have the greatest job. Thankfully, that's what motivates the team as well. It's our clients' transformations and their part in that.
Let's talk a little bit about the current climate in the pandemic and the hard choices you have to make. So now you were in the middle of, you were raising another round, you were getting ready to expand to, I think it was like 3 other cities. Is that right?
5
other cities. Oh gosh, I'm way behind. So, but you're getting ready to expand to all these cities. So this unexpected situation, this pandemic, this global pandemic, has that kind of put things on hold a little bit as far as your expansion goes?
Yeah, it's funny because I interviewed somebody not too long ago about being an entrepreneur and they're just saying how, as entrepreneurs, there's a decision-making muscle that you get very good at flexing. And there's a lot of bumps along the way in building a business. It's just another detour. So what's funny is like that I heard that and it really resonated with me. So yes, we're in the middle of a global pandemic and it is another detour. We've been in detours in the past. So it's just like for me now, 7 years into this, I'm like, oh, it's just another, we shift this, we do this, but I've done it enough now that it's like, even a global pandemic doesn't feel like that challenging to navigate through. You just have to put your problem solving process into place. So we opened up our DC location in February, and then LA and Brooklyn were supposed to happen in March/April. And they'll come online whenever they come online. And then we were looking through the next 5 markets that we were likely going to bring on by the end of the year. That was the plan up until mid-March, a month ago. And then this happened. And so the first week was just like, where are we? What's going on? What happened? Then week 2, we realized, okay, game plan has to change. Really, the biggest game changer for us as a startup is that we require investor money to fuel the growth. So, most startups run at operating losses consistently. I mean, even when they go public, when they all go public, they're still losing money. That's just the startup model. So that was the SOP, the operating plan we were working under. And now we realize, a lot of funds are going to dry up because there's going to be a lot of companies that go under. And so there's just no future for us as far as future raises. So then it's like, okay, what can we do with what we have? And can we lock this down expense-wise and get the company to profitability so that we don't have to be stressed about raising money in the future? So that is the game plan. We started working a few weeks back, and our biggest expense is payroll. So we went to all of the highest paid employees and asked who would take pay cuts and what would they take a pay cut to. So I was making $100,000 and I've gone down to $60,000. So I'm back making 60, and my team, all of them, they all took pay cuts, and I really appreciate that. Some took some really large ones. and offered to take more. And that felt really great that we're, working in it together. And then we had to look at what payroll then could we sustain. The other thing is I've been really transparent with the team. We have weekly all hands meetings during this. We usually have it once a month. And I've been very forthright with the team. So the process we're doing is we're splitting up the company into A, B, and C employees. So A employees, we will keep on full-time, full benefits. C people, we will be firing, and that will be the end of our relationship together. And then B people, we will be firing and then looking to hire them in a contractor basis with the hope that we can bring them back on full-time at some point. So we are currently in the process that this week of finalizing it because we've hired some new trainers and we're giving them a chance to kind of see what they can bring to the table and have everyone kind of hustle and earn the spot in the boat. I tell the team, and I heard this analogy from another founder, it's like being the leader of a company. It's like you're the lead of a boat, like you're rowing the boat and you're the one calling the direction and the pace and changing things up. And you need the people in the boat to row in the right direction and row at the speed you need them to do. And I tell the team too, and also be a fun boat companion because nobody wants, when you're stuck in the boat rowing, you want some positivity in there too. And so we're finalizing like the boat situation and it's not the plan that we started the year with. And the team knows that. It's not the plan we wanted to put into place, but it's the plan the business needs. And my biggest goal is at the end of the day, just keeping the lights on because I know the service we provide is much needed. This is shining a spotlight on the need for better financial health for Americans. We're going to be part of the solution whenever we can be a more active part of the solution. So I've got to keep the lights on.
Now, when you're looking at this and saying, okay, well, some of these folks have to be laid off or whatever, now you're looking at it too in terms of, okay, the unemployment benefits have been enhanced. They'll be able to get their unemployment benefits. So you're trying to look at it in terms of, the whole thing sucks, right? Nobody's happy about this. But like, these are kind of some of the steps. Are you trying to like take to mitigate that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the best thing too is that we really practice what we preach at the gym and every single employee at the gym, the financial gym is a free service for them. And a number of them are in really good financial health and they know how to fix themselves because that's what we teach. That's how they teach other people to do. So, financially fix themselves. So, what I feel good about is that we've set up the team to be prepared for weathering a financial storm, just in the nature of our business. They can all stay and keep working with us, and we want to help them through this and help them manage through it. What's interesting is like with this extra unemployment benefits too, I said to the team, the majority of our clients make what will be these unemployment benefits. So we can help anybody figure this out. If you don't know how to make your budget work in this situation, like we know how to do it. So we're also can help the team figure it out as well.
Yeah, so you're really kind of looking at it sort of holistically and trying, it's still kind of like a hard decision. Like, how do you make those decisions when people are involved?
Yes, that's the hardest part is that there are people involved, that they're not just a line item on the budget. And what I told the team, and I truly believe is like, I think it's because, everything happens for a reason. And I think I have this perspective because I'm divorced, but I view it as a marriage, every relationship we have with employees where, when we hire them, we expect it to be a long-term, loving, healthy relationship. And my goal for the entire team is that the entire time we're together, that it is a healthy and supportive and, wonderful environment. But things change, environments change, and the world changes, and that the situation changes. And this situation, we didn't foresee it. But, the goal is that, we just understand that it's changed and that hopefully we have a healthy post-marriage relationship and that whatever time passes, that people look back on their time at the gym as a really positive experience in their life. That's like the biggest thing I hope for. But, how do we do the analysis and stuff? The reality is people just have different strengths and weaknesses. What we're looking at now is, the people who have the strengths to kind of really work at a very fast pace and in a very challenging time. And not everybody can do that. And it's actually it's going to be for the best for the people we let go that we really feel like can't manage through it. Cause like nobody wants to work in an environment that's extremely stressful and they're not succeeding in it. So I actually think it's like for the best too, knowing where we're headed, that we're letting people go if they can't maintain that kind of environment, which we know we're heading into.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So finally, as we kind of close out, what's next for the financial gym? What are you guys doing? Like, what are you going to do next? How are you guys going to push through this if you want to share? I mean, you've mentioned, you're going to have to put your opening in Brooklyn on hold and that kind of thing. Like, have you had to say, okay, well, maybe we aren't opening in LA?
We are planning to definitely open up LA and Brooklyn. They're still in quasi-construction modes that had to go on hold because of this, but they will open. We will open again under the guidance of local authorities and best practices, whether that's everybody's wearing a mask or social distancing in the gyms, but we will open, again. We actually are growing a large part of our B2B model, which is working with companies to either advise their employees or borrowers in the case of mortgage companies to help them manage through this. So it's an area that's actually in the last few weeks we've gotten more interest on working in that respect with those people. So we will do that. We're working toward profitability. I'm actually really excited about the opportunity it presents to us because we know that 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And this is a horrible time in the country, and it's a horrible time for people physically. It should not be a horrible time financially. And I'm hoping that the people who are feeling strapped and challenged financially, that, we can be the support they need. And this is the eye-opening experience where they commit to their financial health, because no one should feel like this in addition to the mental and physical stresses that come from this.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then finally, have you still kept your trainers doing things like over Zoom, online? Have you?
Yeah, we work with people virtually, and we've actually never been busier. Honestly, I told the team last week in an all hands how proud I was of them, because you read a lot about people not being as productive because they're working from home. And I've never seen my team more productive, because our current clients really need their trainers right now, trying to navigate, if they've lost their jobs or less income or whatever, they, scared about their 401k, they really need their trainers. And then we have new people. We've been offering free financial plans because April's Financial Literacy Month, and we've had over 600 people sign up for those. So, and then with producing content and having Instagram lives and webinars, and we've actually never been busier, and I'm super proud of the team.
That is very cool. So, well, thank you so much for being on, Shannon. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you and the financial gym?
Yeah, they can find me personally on Instagram at the Shannon McLay, and they can find us the gym on financialgym.com or on Instagram at the Financial Gym or Facebook at Financial Gym. And we have plenty of COVID-19 content, and we are just content crazy right now. So come check us out and look at our resources.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you.
Big thank you for joining us for the Plutus Awards podcast. We appreciate your taking some time out of your day to join us here. In next week's episode, we'll be joined by the hosts of Plutus Awards past and future, so make sure you are subscribed so that way you can get that episode and more from the Plutus Awards podcast. You can learn more about our guests and the Plutus Awards podcast by visiting plutusawards.com/podcast and on Instagram at Plutus Awards. Once again, thanks for joining us, and remember to keep creating.